Kamphuis.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. It's my honor to be here today and to be able to share with you a little bit about what it means to be a chaplain. So I think about, Father Washington, I think about Rabbi Good, I think about Reverend Pauling, and I think about Reverend Fox. And I think about them as the archetype of what it means to be a chaplain, whether that's in the military or a first responder or in prison or wherever it might be, because they put the needs of others ahead of themselves. And so that's something that I think we can all kind of appreciate and honor about them. The country we live in, it has been called the Great Experiment, right? The United States of America, to have it in our Constitution as the First Amendment, that you have a free exercise of religion, and that no religion would ever be seen as the established religion of the United States or its military. That is something, if you think about the history of the world, that is so unique. Most countries couldn't understand how you could have unity if you didn't share the same religion. And yet in the United States of America, it was in our foundational documents that there would be diversity, that this would be a place where people could be free to worship God the way that they want to, the way they feel called to, the way their conscience is driving them. And I think that is such a unique thing. One of the great things about being a military chaplain is that military chaplains are the only officers in the U.S. military that are required by the U.S. Constitution. You don't have to have missile officers, you don't have to have infantry officers, you don't even have to have pilots. But you do have to have chaplains, because chaplains protect that First Amendment right for every service member and their families. It's a powerful and, I think, heavy responsibility to carry, because it takes a lot of wisdom. Like, how do you celebrate the free exercise of religion for everybody, but never make it seen or even give the impression that there's one religion that we all share? I think in World War II, it was probably pretty close to being understood that Christianity was the main religion of the United States of America, whether that was Roman Catholic, whether it was Methodist, where it was Reformed or any type of Protestant, whatever it might be. Most of the chaplains came from that background. And even today, I think about 70% of our Air Force chaplains come from the Christian faith. But it's important to recognize that Christianity is not the established religion of the United States of America. We celebrate and protect the free exercise of religion for everyone. So when I think about these four men, and I think about how they inspire me as a chaplain, you might think that I would have more affinity to Reverend Clark Pauling, because he came from a sister denomination similar to mine, and probably a similar background, and a lot of those types of things. But as I listen to their stories, the one that stands out to me the most is Rabbi Alexander Good. Rabbi Alexander Good. He was a National Guard chaplain, just like me. He was married, had a wife and kids, just like me. And if you think about the time in which he was serving, obviously Judaism was not appreciated by the Nazi Germans. But I don't think it was much more appreciated in the United States of America either. Jews were marginalized. They were probably, not really thought of much. And at times, they were persecuted for their faith. So to think about a guy who has experienced that kind of trauma, being willing to say, you know what, my country needs me. I'm going to step forward and I'm going to serve. Even if my country doesn't always appreciate me, I'm going to serve because I know it's the right thing to do. I think about that and I think, man, that's what it means to be a chaplain. To put aside what you want and what your agenda might be, to benefit others and to support them in their rights and their privileges and their responsibilities and duties as members of the military. So I find more of an affinity for Rabbi Alexander Good, an appreciation for him with his experience in life. And I think that the four chaplains, they kind of all knew each other. And they had a good relationship with each other, and they appreciated each other. And they served together. But for Rabbi Good, his faith was marginalized. If they were singing hymns as the ship was going down and they were saying prayers, those were Christian hymns and those were Christian prayers. And yet Rabbi Good sang them right along with them and supported them because he knew that their faith was important to them. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned in the years that I've served as a military chaplain or first responder chaplain, or even a little bit of time in a hospital when I did some clinical pastoral education, is that if my faith is important to me, then it's just as significant to someone else that they have the opportunity to exercise their faith as well. So I've served for, almost 12 years in the U.S. military. I haven't changed my faith. My faith's still the same. All the foundations and everything that I was trained in as a minister of the word and the church that I serve and the beliefs that we have, all those things remain the same. But I also realize that as important as my faith is to me, the faith of others is important to them too. So I've learned to step back from the need I might feel to convert somebody to my way of thinking, and to be able to sit there and to simply listen to their story. What is it that's important to them? How do I help them? How do I encourage them? How do I listen to their story and in doing that, honor their story and honor them as a person? That's, I think, a critical thing to remember. I've always found it curious when I think about from my tradition, I'm not going to assume that everybody here is Christian, but from my tradition, Jesus instructs his disciples what leadership looks like in the church, and I think really what it looks like to serve and to witness. And so in Matthew 20, 26 and 28, he says, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." I've always found it curious that that's Matthew 20, verse 28, and what we know as the Great Commission is Matthew 28, verses 18 to 20. And so I think about that curious juxtaposition, and I wonder if maybe servanthood is the best way to be a witness for Jesus Christ in this world. And that's how I've chosen to see it. And that's what it means to me for being a chaplain. Because I think that service is the pathway to true human engagement and the most powerful witness to the truth of the gospel. Our military branches have core values. For the Navy and the Marine Corps, it's honor, courage, and commitment. For the Air Force, it's integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And for the Army, it's loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. All of these values are important. And the intention of the military having values is to help shape the character of the people that are going to serve in those military branches. And it's a chaplain's responsibility to teach them, but it's also a chaplain's responsibility to model them. Where is it that the soldiers and the airmen and the sailors and the Marines and the Guardians and the Coast Guardsmen are going to be able to see what it looks like to live out those core values if it's not in the chaplain? And when I think about these 4 immortal chaplains, I think they understood the weight of their duty to care for soldiers. They embodied selfless service. And they exemplified personal courage. So that when those who survive think about those 4 chaplains, those are the pictures that they see in their minds. And it challenges them to think about, how can I do the same? And so I guess I want to leave that challenge with us today too, is to think about, how can we improve our serve? If we're called to be there to support people in their greatest time of need, and we really have the honor and the privilege to come into that moment, there's a lot of people who will run the other direction from that moment because they don't want to be a part of that crisis. They don't know what to do. And yet we've been called and we've been trained so that in that moment of crisis, at that time of need, that we can be there. And we can be present with them. And we can support them, encourage them in any way that we can, care for them, pray for them if that's what they want, and get them the help that they need. All of these things are the calling of a chaplain. And so it's for these reasons that I think it's right and proper that we pause to reflect upon the example of these 4 chaplains and to honor them for what they've done. So I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for what you do in this community to make it a better place, whether it's Civitan or as a first responder chaplain or military chaplain, whatever it is that you're doing as a clergy person in a congregation, however it is that you're serving to make our community a better place. I want to honor you and I want to thank you for that. And may God bless and keep you, and may he make us the people that we profess to be. Amen.